We've
go.
gotten 300 million views over the last couple months, really figured out how to institutionally kind of process viral AI ads. There's no world in which this doesn't entirely replace all live action productions. Like, yeah, this would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not probably like 1 to 1.1 million, I think would probably be the traditional budget.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Human in the Loop, the most actionable AI show on the internet. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Lieberman, co-founder and managing partner of 10X. And I am joined, as always, by my co-founder, Arman Hazarkani. For those of you who don't know, 10X is the AI engineering and transformation enterprise partner. And today's guest on the show is an absolute powerhouse. PJ Ace is a veteran producer and creative who is now the CEO of Genre.ai, an AI-first video studio for some of the biggest brands in the world. PJ has cracked the code on manufacturing virality with completely AI commercials and launch videos that have racked up 300 million views. And today he's talking about his exact process. PJ, thanks for joining the show. And I just want to get kind of the quick thought from you. If folks watch until the end of this episode, what can they expect to get out of this conversation?
Open kimono, baby. Full view of our process.
Let's go.
We've gotten 300 million views over the last couple months and kind of like you said, really figured out how to institutionally kind of process viral AI ads. You can never promise virality, but you can promise great commercials, which we do at our agency. So here to basically show you guys full skirt production, details on all of this, and feel free to copy it. It's great.
Amazing.
Real quick, is there any like expected knowledge coming into this? Like what should people know beforehand, or is this for everybody?
I don't think so. As long as you can use ChatGPT, I think it's close enough. Like you actually don't have to be a filmmaker per se, because how we work with ChatGPT typically helps you guide you through the whole process.
Amazing. Awesome. And just to give the quick breakdown on how we're going to go about this conversation, we're going to have PJ take us through his step-by-step process for how he made one of their incredibly successful commercials with Ramp, right? We're going to go through Ramps. And so we're going to go through the commercial for Ramp, and PJ is going to take us step-by-step. The way we're going to go about questions, because we want to make sure that we're engaging you all and we're answering any questions you have about his process, is at the end of each step that PJ goes through, we will answer some questions and we'll have him answer some questions. So feel free to just put questions in the Q&A box. That'll be the easiest way for us to find it. We will take a few questions after each step and we will get through the entire process by the end of this hour. Sound good? Let's do it. PJ, floor is yours.
Okay, guys. Well, look, I'm super excited to kind of walk you all through. I'm gonna need to be able to share real quick, but I wanted to show the ad at the start of this just to kind of. Here we go. Everyone, all right, guys. I'm putting in the chat. If you can't hear this, check out this link that I'm kind of spamming in the chat. But basically, I'm gonna walk you guys through this ad, which you guys can see here. And we're going to basically go step by step. So I'll show you guys the scripting process for it. I'll show you guys, how we're generating the images. I'll show you how you're working with ChatGPT to kind of generate each shot in it, how we're animating it, and then kind of how we're editing it at the end.
Okay, guys, quick break. I know PJ is going to absolute town with all this knowledge right now. We don't want to make you take notes, so we turn this whole episode into a playbook. It includes the step-by-step on how to create Hollywood caliber ads with AI, and it includes all of the prompts that PJ uses in his agency. If you want to check it out, go to the link in the description below. It is totally free.
It is just crazy. This is all AI.
Yeah.
And just for context, this shot, like this whole thing, before what's gone on with VO3 and everything, how much would this have cost you to make?
Yeah, this would have been, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not probably like 1 to 1.1 million, I think would probably be the traditional budget. So, I think, and the thing is too, that we made this like 2-3 months ago with like the new models that are dropping, like this can even look better. So that's why I always say, like, if people are like, oh, like this little thing looks like a little AI, it's like, okay, just wait 2 months. Like the J curve of like exponential photorealism is crazy. It's not about where it is now. It's about where it's going to be in a few months. And, there's no world in which this doesn't entirely replace all live action productions. Like if we're this close, like what feels like only like 6 months into the real AI race.
So do you, out of curiosity, before we hop into the process, like where this all starts, do you think that like creative agencies that do these like $1 million projects are screwed? Like what happens to them in lieu of what we're watching right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll just kind of, I like the visual candy, so we can just slowly scroll through this and all its, 480p glory. But like, this is so fun. Yeah, I do think like bigger bloated agencies are cooked kind of like brands are going to win because they'll be going to be able to produce more content than ever. And then individual creators, I do think will win as long as they're kind of more writer directors where it's going to be very small teams that can make commercials like this. At some level, we do run the risk of like entirely automation, but I think even at that case, like you're still going to have someone who's curating the scripts, which get launched to the automation things. They're still going to be pulling the slot machine a bunch of times, making tweaks on edits. So I don't think humans will ever be like fully divorced, at least in the next 2 to 3 years from this. And in the meantime, we're kind of have this arbitrage moment where, if you're a creator out there, you can work with huge brands and like you never would have had access to before. And there's like no gatekeeping. If you're making banging AI ads, like the biggest brands are going to hit you up. It happened with us. And then if you're a big brand, you can have these level commercials for a lot cheaper than it would have been.
Totally. Okay, so let's get into the process. Where does this whole thing start? Ramp wants you to make this commercial. What do they give you? Like how much are you briefed? How much detail is there? And then where do you go from there?
Yeah, great question. So I'll take you guys through the different sort of steps in the process here. So it always starts out with a brand approaching us, and we have a lot of inbound. I know not everyone starts with that luxury of having a lot of inbound. In the meantime, I would say for like new creators that like don't have any inbound, just like create stuff in a niche. Like do Nike commercials, I do clothing commercials, do commercials on spec, and then eventually like build up content in that niche to where you're hitting brands up. Like, hey, I just made this spec thing for Nike, and hey, I just made it for Adidas, and reach out to all their competitors. Like riches are in the niches, but once you kind of are having brands approach you. That's where we are here. Ramp was like, hey, we want a bunch of different concepts. So what I did with Ramp was I went to, let me see. You guys can see this. Cool. We pitched them a lot of different concepts. So how that sort of, we like to say we mirror the traditional agency process. Everyone that works at my agency are traditional background commercial filmmakers. And so we'll pitch them usually 3 different concepts. We'll have like a basic image that goes with it. And then just like an overview of like a funny idea, a funny concept to wrap this around. And then the brand is like, hey, we like this. Let's kind of go in this direction. And so that's what they did on concept number 3 with this zombie audit. It's a normal day at the office. Suddenly a zombie slams his hand on the window, causing an employee to scream and it's saying receipts, like no auditors, and the reason we pitch comedy first ads is because that we feel like people don't want authentic AI crap. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing authentic about advertising. So let's set the record straight on that. But AI is even less authentic. So why don't we actually make everything like a Super Bowl commercial and that it's like 80% a joke and 20% connected to the brand in a way that actually communicates like what the brand does. Yep.
Awesome. So basically you had this concept of zombie slams hand on window, and it's like the auditor who's stylized like a zombie. And so once like that concept, and so just so I understand, the concept, is this literally the exact concept that you put in front of Ramp, which is kind of like a, 250 word kind of outline of what the story, like what the theme of the commercial is and what the story is that you would want to tell?
That's exactly it. Yeah, we always do it like it's not a full script because again, like we're throwing at probably usually 3 at them at the start. And we do it for free for brands of just like, hey, here's 3 concepts. If you like one of them, you have to begin, an engagement with us and we scope out the price. And then we basically say, we'll hit start once you kind of sign the agreement. And so let's just say they like concept number 3. We'll flesh this out into a little more detail, which has all these things. But to be honest, like you don't really need like crazy amounts of detail to go to the next step, which is basically putting it in ChatGPT and starting to organize like how to approach the ad, like who are the characters, what are the scenes, and what are the shots, which we'll talk through next.
And on
Quick
this,
question here.
yeah, go ahead, Arman.
Are you using AI to write this doc?
It's a good question. We have a couple different writers, and I'm a writer myself, so I think that we always use it as like a co-pilot. Like we'll be brainstorming high level ideas. Like, hey, I've got Ramp. It's a finance receipt company, but I want to have crazy ideas, on like how we could approach this. Give me funny like analogies, metaphors, ways we make this epic, ways we can parody Hollywood movies. Like for our other brand we did for like David Beckham's company, it started off as like a Matrix, sort of satire, whereas basically you can choose their product or the competitor's product and you see the reflection in the glasses. And like that was like probably like a AI idea that like helps us flesh it out. But you can't just solely rely on ChatGPT because they're boring scripts, they're really vanilla. So you got to kind of work with it to give you ideas like a writing partner.
Awesome. So okay, you basically you do this free work to put 3 concepts in front of the client. Ramp was like, okay, this zombie one is a banger. And it sounds like you could use AI in this part of the process, but like you're kind of co-piloting with AI where it's helping to feed you ideas, but you're not just relying on the ideas that it feeds you. Ramp says, okay, this is the concept we're excited about. What's next?
Yep, exactly. So then we'd go in the full script. And like I said, we'd maybe give it a bit more details, but to be honest, like this is really all you need to upload to like a ChatGPT and start to get like shots on the shot list. So just to give you guys like a quick overview, this would be blank to start with, but like what we're going to want to work towards is this kind of storyboard approach. And I know initially it's going to seem a little cluttered and like, oh, it's crazy. That's a lot of data. But like what we want is like, we want to break it down to scenes, beats, and characters saying lines that are like in here. And so what you have on this left side was actually the first version of this ad that we did. And as you can see on the screen here, what's below, this was all text to video. And what's above was a full was a full version that we did with image to video. And this is kind of the power of image to video is you get a lot more photorealism and the characters really come to life. So this is actually the first project we've ever done a comparison on. And then we realized, oh man, like the characters really come through. The aesthetics really come through. I think the AI slop is what you're seeing a little more on the bottom, and what you're seeing at the top that is the commercial we just watched finally. You get a lot more moodiness. You get a lot more like anamorphic flair, like cinematic kind of like visual language for it. And if you're just kind of doing like your standard VO3 commercial, text to video, you're not going to get that. So that's what we really have here in the Figma that we were able to unpack. So we did a first version of the commercial. We actually didn't like it. So we're like, you know what? We're going to build it from image to video. And that's when you can get in. And we basically go shot by shot, which I'm going to show you guys how to go shot by shot. But just to give you an overview of the process, we work with image like what we call AI DPs, AI director of photographies or AI cinematographers. And they generate a bunch of variations for every shot on the shot list. Let me pause there. Alex, Arman, do you guys have any questions on kind of what I talked about there?
I think this makes sense. I'm curious, like, is this structure common to filmmaking, or is this like specific to AI? Like, what are the similarities between like how you're doing right now? And
so imagine this is just storyboard, like actual drawings. That is essentially what we've mirrored here is the storyboarding process. So this guy would just be like a charcoal kind of mock-up, and then this is kind of us on set, quote unquote, is us trying to recreate this shot, but with prompts. And then I'll show you guys how the actual prompts look. Give me a second. They look like this, and I'm going to show you guys how to generate these images, but essentially our AI DPs are going in and they're basically putting their prompts next to all of these images. So if anyone else wants to like tag on, add some different, alternate angles or anything like that. They've got the prompts for each one right here. And we use Figma to really lay out everything in like a modular board. There's other programs, but we found that this is kind of best. And then once we've laid out the shots, the director comes and they move over which one they like their favorite as the selects to kind of make the final thing to get animated. Right.
I want to make sure I understand kind of how we got from the original kind of concept to here. So you had that original concept, which was the zombie auditor. You take that original concept and are you throwing it into GPT with a prompt that generates kind of like the beats, the shots, and whatever the third thing was? And then that's what leads to you filling out this Figma? Like, is this fill out of Figma happening after you've built the script?
Yeah, exactly. So pretend that this is blank initially. What we need is we need to kind of storyboard out, all right, what are the shots that are going to be in this? And so this is where ChatGPT really comes into play. I just wanted to give you guys kind of an overview of this. So what I did is I took this here and I said, okay, it's a normal day in the office, blah, blah, blah. I copy and paste this. And then I take this into an app called Reve or Reve. It's just app.reeve.com. So this is like, picture this like Mid-Journey, but it's also like ChatGPT. And so the problem with ChatGPT is that it only generates one image at a time. You can't really like go modular and like actually edit out things on this. Like it's basically like ChatGPT, but it's really high res images. And this is their own proprietary model. So check it out, app.rev.com. And what you're able to do is basically say, okay, here's the script for my production. I want you to use the script, create a shot list for it, and then go shot by shot and start generating all the shots for this. So then we now paste the script that we just had here. It's a normal day in the office, suddenly a zombie hand. And we just paste our script into here. And then I tell it, use this prompt structure as a template. And this is like a common prompt structure I have for a lot of my things. And then it's like, great. We will start, I'll create a comprehensive shot list for your zombie art or commentary, generate all the shots, and then basically it'll go shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, shot 4. So this is like, and then it auto-generated all of these shots, as you can see on the left. Now, is it that great? No, I came back and I actually had to finagle most of these shots, but it was like you just saw, I mean, you can basically just copy and paste this into a ChatGPT-like interface, and it gives you like 50% of an ad, and then you can just make tweaks on it. That's kind of the framework that we're able to have in Reve.
Awesome. And a few questions. One is, are you down to share that typical prompt you use with the group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I share prompts a lot. And also I do think that like prompts are a bit overrated in the sense that like they are I'll paste it into the chat. Prompts are a bit overrated in the sense that like AI models go through what's called rewriters, where they basically rewrite it. But what this prompt is, it's not the poeticness of it. It's kind of just saying like, so when there's no prompt, maybe it's just going to have something more like that. That's not good. So I had to go in and basically say, no. I want this prompt because I want it to feel cinematic. So I want there to be like backlighting, and I want there to be like more of like a horror vibe. And I'm going to give it a bunch of language to describe like how the office is. There's brick wall background. Some of the things are torn up, like it feels cinematic, the background's slightly blurry. There's haze in there. So anyway, that's how like having a prompt as a structure can make it more cinematic, if that makes sense. And then make everything as a result consistent between all of these shots, to where they all kind of look cinematic.
So that's what I was going to ask also. I feel like one of the hard things about text to image is the variance in like the style. And so have you found that using this prompt keeps continuity of the style in a really kind of like standardized way? Or do you still have to finagle a decent amount to get all of the styles of these disparate images which get turned into actual scenes? Do you have to do more finagling to keep it the same?
Yeah, it's a mix. I mean, there's a couple different ways to keep consistent style. So one is, like you said, it's just like keeping similar descriptors in this, like shot on this lens, like shallow depth of field, nocturnal lighting. We've got like brick walls in the office. We've got like overhead LEDs. We've got, essentially like a few common language. But what also can help is You can also take this into like Google's Nano Banana model, which is their like image generator. You can upload as a reference and then just say, okay, like take the next shot on this shot list, but use the style of this image. So then it'll generate the next shot of like what he's looking at, the zombies and like, so it's like, I mean, I can even do it here within Rev, and I can say, turn the so I've got this image selected, and I say, turn the camera around and show a zombie attacking the man, something like that. And then what it's going to do is it's going to generate from using this image. And this is where we are now in like the 2025 kind of cycle, is it's so much easier to do variations on shots, slightly tweak things, like change his glasses from tortoise shell to, horn rimmed glasses or something like that, right?
How much of the how much of the heavy lifting is being done by Rev versus the model? And are you selective about, oh, I want to use Nano Banana within Rev, or does Rev have their own models? Like, how much do you care about the model?
That's a good question. We're actually kind of model agnostic. I think Rev helps really move things quickly, but Google's Nano Banana. And so if you go to freepik.com, you can actually access all the models, and you can try like, okay, I'm going to try Google's model, or I'm going to try Midjourney, or I'm going to try Sea Dream, which is the TikTok model. And like, they're all pretty good these days. I think what I like about Rev, is that it's just baked with this chat GPT experience, but also now Runway has it. So to be honest, like trying a couple different ones to see what works best with your style really is helpful. But you are able to turn out some pretty good examples. And I always say like volume really helps too. That's why if you do look at our boards, like we're going to take one prompt or one shot, and we're going to have a lot of variations on that. So our director can really say like, okay, I like, there's something about this frame that I really like.
Okay, so basically, so from the top, you approach Ramp, you show them 3 different ideas that you kind of iterated with AI to get 3 different ideas. You put this into Rev, and you have a prompt that you just shared with the audience to basically like iterate on a bunch of different shots. And this is the AI DP role. Those are all put into Figma, into the sheet that you showed. Then you have a director basically comb through all these and drag what they like into the green section. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is our selects. Yep. And if the director wants to make notes, like what we can do, and I do want to credit. So I didn't direct this. This is by Dan Packer, is one of the directors at our agency, and Dan and the team did an incredible job. So just as a high level in the roles, if you can't expand to a big agency like ours, like we have a writer who then works with a director like Dan, and then Dan works with AI cinematographers, AI DPs, and then they work with animators. So once we've got this shot, we then want to take it into VO3, which you can see here, and we're gonna, like I walk you through this in a second, but you basically say the character bangs on the glass until it shatters, and then it'll have him like, banging on the glass. And then we'll download a bunch of these clips, and this is what makes up the thing we send to our editor. So there's 5 core roles: writer, director, DP, animator, editor. You can do all of them by yourself, but the faster you're able to specialize into what's your genius zone, and a lot of times it might just be sales, or it might be writing, or it might be directing, but then you're able to work with a lot of others also at variable rates. And that's kind of how we are able to work on a lot of productions at once. Like, to be honest, there's only like, I don't know, less than 100 like all around AI artists in the world, like myself, that can do like high level full ads, maybe even less than 50. It's so much easier to find a big talent pool of people to work with if we're just looking for directors. Additionally, you don't even need AI native people. So you just need writers don't need to be AI native. Directors don't even need to be AI native. You actually just need the sort of AI DP that generates all the images to be AI, and then also the animators, and then the editor doesn't. So that's just kind of breaks down the process real high level. Yeah.
Could you actually, sorry, Alex, I have a quick follow-up, and I'm seeing some people ask, but can you go up 2 sections here?
Yes.
And then could you, right there, could you zoom in here? Like on this, or actually could you go down to that section? Okay. So these are different characters, right? And but like the cinematography is all pretty consistent, but there's differences. At what stage do you have to start paying attention to character consistency and like visual consistency? And how do you prompt that? How do you enforce that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So once we'll generate like a character in a scene, it's like, let's put this guy. So I've clicked on this image. We see here that like it's kind of tagging him. Let's put this guy in a different environment where he's holding a door braced up against it, and a zombie is trying to barge through on the other side. Give me three versions of this. And it should now basically take this character and give me three versions on this. And it's very like chat intuitive, which is why I like this tool and try and share it with you guys more than other things. Yeah. Yeah, but that's how you get character consistency.
And just as this is generating, because I'm curious to see what the character looks like in other scenes. So in this process, you've basically talked about these 5 different roles. When you think about one, I'm curious, how long did it take beginning to end to create this final product? How many hours? What was the cost? And then which step in this process do you think should take the longest, if any of them?
Some of these are dumb, but you can kind of get the gist. You can then prompt it like, okay, have the arms just coming out from the cracks of the door, or have like a window where you see the zombie's face in here, or make sure that there's the thing here. But what you are seeing here is you are seeing a consistent character from this. I think if we were prompting with something a little more mundane, like show me the guy drinking coffee in a coffee shop, like, yeah, of course, with zombies, it's kind of hard to like specify this, but it is keeping all the details. Anyway, sorry, what was your question real quick?
So the question was, how long did this take beginning to end? What was the cost to make this thing, if you feel comfortable sharing it? And of all these steps in the production process, so like the original concepting, the scripting, the text to image, the image to video, and then like the editing of the final thing, is there a step in this process that you think deserves the most time spent?
Yeah, it's a good question. Here's kind of an overview of our process real quick. We are about a week to go from 0 concepts to 3 concepts. Like we'll have a sales call with the brand, creative kickoff, and then like do 3 concepts. We're about a week then to dial in on the scripts and go over our contract with them. It's then we do a treatment phase where we kind of create like a bunch of like mood boards and stuff, other references. And then it's a week after that to kind of generate all the images. And then it's a week after that to get sign-offs on all the images, and then animate all the images. And then it's a week after that to do edits, week after that for revision. So now most people that are doing this, they're like, they crank it out in a week. But like kind of at this highest level to work with Fortune 500 company brands, we found it's about 2 months, basically. It's like six weeks to 8 weeks on average. And the reason we do that is because a lot of team members, a lot of revisions with clients. So this won't be as common for everyone. I think there's a lot of people that can do a good ad in a week or 2 weeks, but at this level, you've got to really nitpick every single frame. As far as costs go, I can't share our costs because it always bites us in the ass when we have like a sales conversation like a month or 2 later, and like we've added twice the team and it's kind of twice the cost. And they're like, well, on Alex's show, you guys said you were this much. I will say that, on average, AI commercials are all going to be less than $100,000. They're going to be a fraction of the cost that, traditional productions are. And when most people start off, I don't know, they might charge like 5 or 10 grand. We're always positioning. You're either in a race to the bottom as an AI agency, or you're going to try and go to the top. And we're just only focusing on the highest possible brands because we don't want to do a race to the bottom.
And then the last question here is like, from the perspective of folks that are watching this, whether they are marketers that are thinking about how do they use this process to create ad creative on Meta, or whether it's founders or marketers thinking about product launch videos, or kind of company coming out of stealth and creating a video for X or wherever. As they think about this process, what step do you think is most important or requires the most amount of time to get this right?
Yeah, it's hard because on one hand, like scripts are always the most important thing in any production, like getting a funny script, so maybe it's worth just like quickly double tapping that. Like, I think that ads live or die in the first 0.5 seconds in the same way that all content lives or dies in the first 0.5 seconds. Like you either hook people or you don't. And so, a lot of our ads historically are like, it opens like Jesus on the cross saying like God is about to BRB, and he's got a big smile on his face, and it's like, what is this blasphemous? I don't know, but I'm gonna watch the rest of it because this is like crazy, and the same, we've had a bunch of other ads when we worked with Popeyes. We've got like McDonald's in the clown suit, and he's like crying outside the Burger King or the Popeyes window, looking in, and like we always try and have like very strong opening image. In this case, it's like zombies, but always think, just like what is the viral hook? What stops the scroll is the thing we tell our writers, and then how within a few seconds do you start to connect this concept to the brand. That's kind of the most important part of the writing process. Now, what is the most important part of all the process? I would say the image generations is going to be like the longest that it takes. Like animating these things is quick. You get a shot of the guy and you just prompt him like the guy runs away scared. Like there's no science to that. Editing also, everyone can find a great editor. So it really does come down to, can you find a great concept that like can stop attention? And then can you, like with images, make it cinematic? And I always say, like, work with these models and just press it to be more cinematic. Like, no, this is from a movie. Technically, I shouldn't tell people, like, make this Quentin Tarantino style because then maybe it's training on that. But, like, you can be very descriptive with, like, the cinematic cameras and angles, and it will make it look photorealistic.
So we have a question in the chat. Can you make a 10-second ad for 10X right now? And I think that Joseph Smith, who asked this question, asked a very good question. I don't want to throw us off, but we have 20 minutes left. I do think it'd be cool to try and do something. Of course, given that we are 10X.
Well, on this timeline, I mean, then I'm like, yeah, throw it in a Sora.
Well, actually, a question on that. Like, how do you think about Sora in the context of VO3, Nano Banana? Like, are you using Sora for the work you're doing now? If not, why not? If so, where in the process?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Sora is like this like 800-pound gorilla in the room kind of a thing where like it's like we're disruptive to all the big agencies, but this is even disruptive to us because with Sora, you're doing like one prompt and you're getting some of these really insane viral videos. Like here, I can show you guys just kind of, like all these like cops chasing viral things. And like, it's just crazy the ways in which a single prompt can just kind of prompt insanity. Like I like it's insane like how much this would have taken us to like do a hippo smashing through a store, and then like, but what if you have a convenience store and this is your business? Like you could have like Moodang, if Moodang is like, remember the baby hippo of the week,
Or
now
shout out Moodang.
you can. Yeah. Never forget. Or that's Harambe. But, whatever like the viral news of the week is, like just have that integrated into your business. Like, I think this is going to be the future of advertising in some ways where it's like, you're going to be able to do really funny, quick turnaround videos. And that's what Sora unlocks. Now, the problem with Sora is that like, it's a ton of slot machine pulls. Like for big brands, they're like not quite sure on like, can we use this? So I do think that there's going to be a lot of evolution, but there's some insanely funny stuff. I mean, you guys have seen all the Sora videos. I don't have to go through this.
Totally. So, okay. So just to bring it back to the process. So you've basically gone through concepting, you've gone through scripting, you start with blank Figma board. You then do text to image in, was it called Revel?
Reve, R-E-V-E.
Reve.
Yep.
Reve, to basically go from text to image. You generate a bunch of images. Then you basically pull your favorites into the green zone that relate to kind of the different scenes and shots. Once the client has signed off on those shots, then you go image to video using VO3 or Nano Banana, right? And so I guess take us through that part of the process. Like I think where you were is you started creating these scenes. Where do you go from there to get to finished commercial?
Yeah. Okay. So let's screen share again. Okay. Once we've basically gone through all of the kind of shots and we've laid out, okay, here's like the big sequences that we want. We know we want a close up. A lot of this is like characters talking. Like if I want, her talking, I'm going to download the shot, and then I'm going to upload that image into this. So like we could prompt him to talk here. So you just click frames to video. So this is all in Labs, Google or Google Flow. If you just Google Flow. But basically we do frames to video, and then you're able to upload this as the starting frame. I much, prefer that than doing all of this in like text to video here. And it just gives you the consistency where we know, again, like, what everybody looks like. So then you're able to say, in this case, I was saying character bangs on the glass, but in this one, I can say, like zombie, says in a rough, raspy voice, show me your mileage logs. And, like, honestly, that's probably it. And then bangs on the glass. And then we want to make sure we're on VO 3.1. Want to make sure it's landscape, and we can do, a couple prompts per output. The good news with Google Ultra now is that, like, it's unlimited as long as you're on fast mode, and fast mode's like 99%, or like 90% of the quality of their other one, which is quality mode. So basically, like, it's free to generate a bunch, and it's great. So you can do 4 at a time, but basically that'll take about a minute. But as you can see here, like, essentially this was the zombie explodes, disappearing, and all that's left is scattered receipts and green glue that flies everywhere. So let's see what this looks like. Little slow motion, very graphic.
That's like reminiscent of like Nickelodeon, like getting slimed. I love that.
Oh my God. I got that as a kid. Yeah, it's an insane experience. Because I think initially I was doing zombie explodes, but he didn't actually explode. So you kind of got to like say, okay, like he disappears as it explodes. And then you might want to, also say like it's not slow motion, like quickly explodes, he disappears, and all that's left is receipts. And then I would do like a counter shot. So like what you can also do is like with the counter shot is you can like screenshot this or go back to that image, and then you can kind of prompt in. Let's go back to here, basically the reverse shot of that. So you can also upload shots into Reve, and you can basically, have here the reverse shot of here. So we got this. Let's show her face,
that's awesome.
Covered in green goo, or something like that. Or it can be even like pre-green glue. So we can also just do, let's show a 180 reaction shot of her horrified. Something like that. And like volume is always the game. So you can also say like, give me 4 variations of the woman witnessing the scene or something like that. Scene. Anyway, so that's modular.
And as this generates, another question here, I guess it's similar to my one about consistency of images, but I guess it's this question is about consistency of the actual video. So as you're stitching together these frames, and it looks like VO3 basically creates 8-second frames, how are you ensuring that like there's a smoothness from frame to frame and it doesn't feel jarring because VO3 is only creating these short frames? Like how do you ensure like continuity and smoothness in the story?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're able to do just short shots. So like if we go on here, we had a guy where he was running. So he's running here. We can see like in Reve, you're actually able to use Google 3.1. And we had him running. Now he looks stupid when he runs like here and then he turns around. But actually this moment from that screen to like here is pretty good. And also if we look at the original ad, like the ad is very choppy and chaotic for the reason that like none of these environments are necessarily consistent. Like technically the blue lighting on there is like a little different than the blue lighting on here, but like if everything's kind of similar in that like nobody really notices quite the lack of consistency, like spatial consistency. I do think as the models get better too, we'll be able to have like a 3D world in which you can move the camera, but on the basis like pretty much everything is just like similar prompting like you guys saw. Like the light always has like dusky blue lighting in the background, brick walls in the background, and then we just do a lot of character close-ups. And that mitigates a lot of this continuity and like the difference in scenes.
And so just as an example here, because I'm curious how you prompt this, like let's just say, even the example you were using before of the thing exploding, the zombie exploding and the woman looking at the zombie exploding. And let's just say you wanted that scene to continue where that woman, say, turned and started running away. And how would you basically prompt it with the final image from that previous frame of her getting like exploded on, and you use that to then ask it for her to run? Is that how you would do it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we could do like a screenshot here and then upload that screenshot into VO3 and say, now the character runs. And so we've kind of got this extension of this shot where he gets splashed and then he starts to run away. But a lot of times too, just changing the like if from like a wide to like this guy's face is actually a little different from this guy's face at some level, but you don't really notice because it's like a wide shot and then we just do this punch in. What you can also do in VO3 is you can say like cut to a close up. So like I think this was our wide shot and we prompted something like, head explodes in green spray and then we said cut to close up. So this is actually one VO3 shot. So you can prompt VO3 to kind of have multiple angles of coverage across those 8 seconds. And that helps character consistency a lot too.
So we're getting a few questions around like, is the comedy, is the punchiness of the ads, is that a feature or is that like a constraint of the current technology? It sounds like it's kind of both. Like the technology lends itself better to short, punchy scenes that are strung together in this way. Is that true? And then the other thing that I'm hearing a lot of people in the chat talk about is like almost skepticism of like, okay, so you're like, this seems like a pretty simple process. I just kind of go in ChatGPT, I create a script, I do this, I do that, and then I just have like a $1 million ad. What I'm sensing is that actually, yes, the process might be simple, but you're prompting everything like 1,000 times, and it's the iteration that's actually the valuable part. Is that true?
Yeah, that's exactly true. Like I don't want to say you have to be a filmmaker to do this, but if you're a filmmaker, like you just kind of understand like the pacing and everything to really understand how to put a lot of these stories together. So I don't want to gatekeep like, oh, this is only for people who've been doing this for like 10 years. Sure, it's a lot easier for us. It's like, I don't know, picking up like a ukulele if you've been playing guitar, it's like a little more simple, but you understand like the basics. But I will say that like, so here's another ad that we did for David Beckham's company, directed by Theo, one of our directors, and this got 230 million views, and it's not funny at all. Like in fact, it's kind of serious. It's for like a Athletic Greens competitor, and we even got to deep fake Arena, who's the #1 tennis player in the world. And so it was like really crazy commercial where it was like, essentially we took an image of her and then we had the model like, okay, put a drink in her hand, now add, like red liquid to the drink and like have her drink it. And then we also took images of the the kind of product, and we had it put it like in this, so we like uploaded a reference image of this, and then we said, okay, put this like a whiskey glass with red liquid and put it on this kind of background. So a lot of this is like serious. This is a little more epic. We had this like really cool attention hooking intro where I said like, okay, take their logo, which is like a pentagram or whatever like this, or whatever it is, and then make it transition into the body's circulatory system. And then we did like fast editing techniques where we had like little teaser of like what you see in the rest of the commercial, and then have red cars, and then have, Arena. And this was actually the Matrix like choice where he offers her, that I was saying earlier, where he kind of offers her like in one hand is this, and the other hand's the competitor.
I've two questions, and I want to hit on one for sure because we're almost at time. One question here is for Sabalenka. First of all, was that the AI version of her, or was that her?
I believe this was an AI image. Like I think we just took another one of her images from like a press shoot or something like that, and then we're able to kind of animate her with AI.
Got it. And so just from a legality perspective, you just have to get sign off from the celebrity.
Yep, exactly. And the good news is she's a brand ambassador for them. So we just worked with her and the team of like, hey, does this, we sent her the image. Does this image work for you? And then we sent her the animation and we said, does this work for you? And she said, yes, on both. And then we actually, you can't hear it, but we have her voice that we cloned her voice in 11 Labs. And she says, the best, choose the best.
Yep. So the final piece of this that I want to hit on is the actual audio for the ramp commercial. What are you using to generate the audio? How are you making sure that there's audio consistency? And also, what are you doing to make sure that like the lip syncing is good? Because I feel like that's always one of the challenges with AI voice is like the actual facial mannerisms and the audio coming out don't match up.
Yeah, that's a great question. So you guys can't hear it, but he's basically saying, I'll lip sync it. Show me your mileage logs. And so like the lip sync's coming through pretty good. Show me your mileage logs. And I'm pretty impressed overall with VO's. The only problem I've been having with VO's lip sync is that it sometimes sounds tinny. Like there's like an AI kind of like thinness to the EQ spectrum that like is iconic. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll do what I just did a second ago, which is we'll lip sync it. So we'll have our own internal team, directors, et cetera, myself, and then we'll just lip sync to it. And it adds sound. So a lot of times you can then just layer on like some office sound, like the sound of like glass smashing. But like 9 times out of 10, like we don't do a lot of dubbing. Like we like the AI performances, and VO3 always generates sound for everything they do.
Awesome. And then I think one other question from Emily on this point around audio is how do you keep consistency across the whole commercial? So like if that zombie, whether you used VO3's voice or you did dubbing over it, how are you making sure if that zombie was talking for the next 20 seconds, but there are multiple frames, how are you keeping the same audio?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can prompt it in a similar way. Like you can basically, I think there's this thing where we add a scene, and then I think we can basically just continue to prompt this in a sequence. So we can just have all of his character lines if he's there, and then we just say like, okay, now make him say. In like in a raspy and hoarse zombie voice, and if as long as you prompt it with kind of similar modifiers, so like if this was like a girl, like a Midwest girl in her 20s says, or something like that, like American dad, and it's a lot of times like the more descriptive you are with it, the more it'll like isolate it to a specific voice profile. And then on top of that, if you really need 100% voice consistency, just do the dubbing, like have one of your characters. And then you can go in 11 labs and you can essentially do what's called a voice changer. So it'll change your voice to, a zombie voice or to like the girl's voice or something like that. And then you'll use your dubbed syncing of it with the voice changer's new voice for it. And that's how you can do voices for everything.
Amazing. So just to wrap things up, we've gone through the process from basically the concept selected, concept plus prompt gets you to script with kind of shots, beats. What was the third thing you said? You always said it was shot, beat, and what was the third?
Concepts goes to scripts, goes to, we call it a treatment. We didn't cover it today. It's fine. But basically it's image board, storyboarding. We then animate all of the images and then we edit them.
Awesome. And then you talked through how voice is done. You could do it in 11 labs or you could do it in VO3. And just the final piece here is the stack of all the tools you used. You used ChatGPT for the scripting and even for helping on the concepting. You used Figma for the storyboarding. You used Reve for the text to image to add to the storyboard. Once you had the images, you put that into VO3 or Nano Banana for image to video, and then what are you editing in Premiere?
It doesn't matter. Most people edit in CapCut because it's free. There's another one called DaVinci Pro that's also free, and then a lot of people edit in Premiere because that's the standard. But to be honest, doesn't matter. And then finally, I did PJA and Jake Paul are missionaries going door to door with a white button-up shirts preaching the gospel of 10x.
What a great way to end the event. PJ, thank you so much for the time and walking us through your playbook. This has been awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, man. PJ. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Later.